Really challenging game coming up tomorrow night. High Point, great respect for Coach Smith, their program, the history of High Point basketball, and they have as a dynamic and offensive team as we've seen this season, without a doubt. I mean, if not the best team, one of the very best teams that we've played this year, regardless home, road, or neutral, and going to be a great challenge for our guys tomorrow night.
Coach, coming off a huge win against South Carolina on the road, winding down non-conference play here, getting ready to go into conference. Is this where you thought this team would be this time? Are they ahead, are they behind, or right where you thought they'd be?
I think it's so hard to say that. I think every coach in the country would love to be undefeated. Every coach in the country would love to be playing their best basketball, both sides of the ball, offense, defense, and have things established. We knew it would be a process, and it is a process. I mean, we're going through it right now, just trying to figure it out. We by no means did everything correctly the other day versus South Carolina. There's so much areas we have to be better. But what I can say is, over the last couple weeks, excited about the way the guys have really moving forward right now in terms of trying to say, here's where our weaknesses are, here's where we've struggled in games early in the season, here's where our focus has been in practice throughout finals, and when we had a couple 2 or 3 day stretches of practice, which are really important. I thought their focus and lock-in into those areas has been really good, and that helped us a bunch on Saturday.
85 points per game for High Point they're averaging. Just what stands out? I'm sure that a lot when you watch the film.
Yeah, a lot does, like you said, and that's a great point. But they are dynamic in transition. They really get the ball out of the net quick. They want to score in the first 7 to 8 seconds of the clock, or they're willing to take shots then, and they make a high percentage of those. So our ability to be able to get back in transition defense and have an urgency there. They're one of the country's leaders in pace of play in terms of length of possession. A lot of that is because, in terms of short length, a lot of that is because they do play in transition so effectively. They have 4 guys that could rebound the basketball and push it. They take the ball out quickly, make off a made field goal. So it's going to be a real challenge for us, like I said, because they're as good an offensive team as we've played, and they have not done it just in a 2 or 3 game stretch. They scored 82 points the other night versus Wilmington. They've done this now 11 games into the season. So this is who they are, a dynamic offensive team.
Winston Tabbs didn't play the last game. Is that an injury concern?
No, there was a couple days prior. I think we talked about he was feeling under the weather, and I think sometimes, it just takes time to get back into it. But no, there's no injury concern.
It seems like you have found a little bit. Do you feel like you found a little rotation going in?
Yeah, I do. That's a great point, and I think we're trying to get there. A lot to your point, and where we thought our team would be. I think every day where we are, our guys are competing to play. We have established a little bit of a rotation. Some guys have found their roles, but some guys that had really big roles aren't playing as much now. And I would suspect, and our coaching staff would suspect, those guys are going to fight their way back in. I mean, that's team sports, and that's what it is. And we're sitting here in kind of just the middle of the season. There's so much left to play. It just happens to be our last non-conference game. But just because of Winston or Quentin DeMunje didn't play last game and other guys have established themselves, we expect those guys to continue to fight, and I could see them being back in the lineup or back in the rotation without a doubt.
You guys have done a great job of seeming to bring your own energy from the bench and the guys that are there and trying to create some excitement for the guys on the court. How important is that going into a game like this where getting right before Christmas, school's out, maybe not as many folks and the students aren't here, and just trying to create an atmosphere even with your own guys? Yeah,
that's a huge point, and we kind of got to you get those couple of early scrimmages early in the year when you're in an empty arena, so the guys got a chance to do that there. Really, Florida, our bench was awesome. But they've been that all home games, road games, and, to your point about guys that we found a rotation, well, I know there's guys that want to play, and there's guys that were playing and not playing as much. And for those guys to stay locked in, high energy, positive, locked in, I think that's a great testament to them, and that's a great, I have a lot of admiration for that, because it's not easy. They want to play. I mean, guys want to play, particularly ones that had already tasted playing. So being able to do that is really important, and I think, tomorrow night will be no different.
You mentioned Quentin, not playing last game. How has he maybe kind of handled that, and have you guys challenged him in certain areas to get back on the court?
Yeah, 100%. I thought he's handled it fairly well. I think he's handling it better now than he did initially. Go back to the Campbell game, I think, where the first time he came off the bench, and I don't think he handled it great then, and I think it's just an up and down. trying to do things with expectations and trying to do what you have to do when there's expectations on you is a whole lot different than having to perform when there's no expectation. And Quentin had put himself in a position where expectations were a factor. So I don't think that initially he handled it as well as he is now, but without a doubt there's 3 areas, and he would, if he was right here, he would tell you it's defense, it's rebounding. On the offensive end particularly, he should be a really good offensive rebounder, and being physical. We need his physicality. He's 6'5", 215. We need him to play like he's 6'5", 215 or bigger, not like a smaller guard. And he understands that, and he knows he's capable of doing that. But, we gave up 15 offensive rebounds the other night to South Carolina. So we know that sometimes size, strength, front court is not going to be. There may be teams that are bigger than us or have more physicality than us. So we need our big guards to play like big guards, and that's what Quentin's going to get to.
It seems like you want to give Ezra more minutes, but he found himself with foul trouble in the last game. Is that just kind of part of his development, learning to be mindful of those kind of things?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think you make a great point about that. I think foul trouble is always going to determine minutes. And when someone picks up 2 fouls consistently in the first half, you have to make that adjustment. We have put him back in with 2 fouls in the first half, and we've used those as spot minutes because what he does on the defensive end gives so much versatility. But that being said, you also have to keep in mind the last 10 minutes of the game, and you don't want to be sitting there with someone with 4 or 5 fouls, and fouled out in the game. So those have cost him probably 3-4 minutes of time. If he was at 22 or 23, I think he's capable of playing more than that, but foul trouble will determine that, or a big piece of it.
How's Elijah Jones coming along? We haven't seen him this year, but he seems to be pretty balled in. Watch him on the bench.
Yeah, as good as anyone, to your guys' point about energy on the bench and being a great teammate. And we talk about it every day, that it doesn't matter if you're going through a lot of positive or you're going through a difficult time, you got to be a great teammate. And I think Elijah Jones, as a lot of our guys are, but he's as good of a teammate as there is, and he brings great energy, and he helps us a lot in practice. He's part of the scout team, and he gives us a real good look as we go into opponents game to game.